Hey everybody, it's Pete. Good morning. Sorry, I'm a little bit late this morning. Got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, with the Fed coming out yesterday, a bunch of good opportunities to buy stocks yesterday afternoon, and just really good patience by everybody in our community. So we're going to talk about, we're going to have a big list of stocks that we're going to take a look at today. I actually wrote down everything we want to talk about today. Obviously, we're going to talk about the FOMC in this video. We're going to talk about stocks at or near all-time highs. We're going to break it down into the sector that has been the strongest by far over the last, let's say, 2 weeks. We're going to go through a big list of stocks that are potentially in my game plan today. It's a list of 31 stocks. We're going to break those stocks down. And then we're going to talk about one individual group that was super strong about 5 weeks ago, sold off pretty hard, and all of those stocks traded into bullish U-turns yesterday. Still in bearish order flow, but they had reversals yesterday, like quite a bit of the rest of the market. So we're going to map out a plan of when we would consider getting back into those ideas and the exact levels that we're going to set alerts for. So we got a lot to discuss today, a lot of stocks to talk about buying today. Can the market hold the bid after the Fed came out and said, no, wait, we're going to wait till next year? Taper tantrum is still on the table. It's really just a question at this point of when, and that's actually why the market exploded yesterday. We're going to talk about that in just 1 second. So stick around. We'll be right back. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining me today. I really appreciate it. As with every video that we do, everything we do here is for educational purposes. It's up to you to make that final decision, do your own due diligence. I've made it my mission to help you make better decisions. And I'm actually going to point something out today that I want to start out with this. Actually, we're going to start out first with the big list of stocks. This is where I want you to take a snapshot of this list, because I just want to give you an idea of some of the ideas that I'm looking at and put in my game plan this morning. And that's this list. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, AMD is the first one. I don't know if it's being blocked up there, but you could see the list. Take a shot of that. These are the ideas that are in the game plan this morning. So here's the thing I want to get across, though. One of the biggest things that we do every day, which is we have lists of stocks that meet the perfect criteria that we would consider to buy. Then we go deeper into those stocks and we see which ones are opportunities right now. And I want to point out a lesson from Apple just from 2 days ago that we pointed out, because I want to, you know what, I'm actually going to give you a video. I'm going to pop this video in the chat because I think it's pretty important. This video is an explainer video. I'm going to put it right here in the chat, and I'll actually post it below the video as well. Let me put that in there. We have the list of stocks that are in this list. And when you do your game planning every day, this type of list are the stocks that meet the perfect criteria. They have bullish order flow in the monthly chart, bullish order flow on the weekly chart, bullish order flow on the day, bullish order flow from today's open. So we actually have 4 different time frames where order flow is obvious. Then what we need to do before we buy the stock, then we need to go into this list of, today it happens to be 31 stocks. Then we go into that list of 31 stocks and see which ideas are in play now from a risk reward perspective. That's very important distinction. And I think this is where a lot of very smart chart readers get into trouble, where they'll run a scan and they'll say, yeah, I got to trade that stock today because it was up yesterday, but not put into consideration what the stock has done recently. And I'm going to show you an Apple, because we discussed this on both Monday and Tuesday. And I think it's a perfect illustration of what we mean by when a stock has a average true move, and then we make that final decision of whether or not it's a good idea to buy now. Because we can have ideas that are good now, that are obvious, but not necessarily a buy now. So the thing you want to write down now is pick a side, then pick a spot. It's that spot part that the timing issue comes in. So I want to pull up the chart of Apple, and I want to just use this as a lesson. So we're going to go into Apple. And if you remember a couple of days ago, we actually had this right here. At that moment, the stock had already gone 120% of what it normally does. Now, one of the biggest questions we get is, how do I set profit targets? And initially what we do, everybody knows the 3-to-1 risk reward. That's the kind of the number that if you achieve 3-to-1 risk reward on your trade, so you make 3 for every dollar you risk, you could have as little as a 33% winning percentage and still be okay. Obviously, we want it much higher than 3-1 on the winners. And obviously, we'd like to shoot for a much higher win percentage, but it really drills home the concept of what you need to risk for what you think you could make. So what we talked about here on this, I keep pointing to the wrong side, on this chart in Apple a few days ago, is we said the stock normally moves $15 to $18 when it has a bullish rally. And at this particular point, it made new all-time highs. But what we said was at that time, it had already gone now $21. It went past what it normally does. Now, I'm bringing this up today to start today's video out because it's going to play into this giant list of stocks that I just gave you, okay? So the reason we're bringing it up is that moment in Apple, we were not putting a limitation on what it can do. I want to be clear about that because I got a couple of emails and a couple of messages where, why would you say Apple can't go further? That's not what I said, and that's not the thinking of how a professional trader thinks about when they're allocating capital. It's if I risk X amount in a certain amount of time, that's how I plan to make the trade, which is a swing trade. If I risk X, what are the odds of me making Y, for lack of a better way of putting it? And what are the odds of following through when I buy it? That's the part that a lot of people missed. So what we said was we still like it, but we're waiting for it to pause before the next trade. So we talk about this all the time here, where we say the pause is where we manage risk. The push is where we make money. So we had this big push to the upside, which you can see here. We said we're going to wait for the pause for the next entry. And luckily or strategically, we actually ended up getting a pause over the next couple of days. So we didn't buy the high. We didn't buy 182. We did not sit through a $10 decline, which, think about it, this is actually how we explained it. Raise your hand if you tend to run scans, buy as soon as that scan comes out. You don't recognize the average true move. You put the trade on, pulls back like this one did, $10, which is not a small move. Let's just face it. Pulls back $10. You get shaken out of the trade. And now the next day and the next 3 or 4 days, the stock rallies and does exactly what you thought. So all I want to do is point out the context of what it means for before you decide to hit the buy button. Doesn't matter if it's a day trade or a swing trade. On the day trading side, we use average true range. Before you hit the buy button, ask yourself, how far is this stock from the optimal entry? And the optimal entry sounds like mysterious, right? But it's really not. It's what does the stock normally do and where is it now? If the stock normally goes $10, you're like, how do I know? Look to the left. What does the stock, when the stock has a bullish move, what does it normally do? And where is it now? If it's $2 and it normally moves 10, you still got some meat on the bone. It's worth accepting the risk at that moment. So for example, if we have an entry signal and it's only the first day past that entry signal, pretty good. We still have some room to go. You could justify taking the trade. But if the stock normally moves 10 and it's already gone 8.5, you might want to look to allocate that capital somewhere else to the next move, or it would be a little bit less position size on that initial entry, anticipating it's going to do exactly what Apple did, which is pull back, and you could withstand that $10 pullback and then look to add as it takes off. These are advanced lessons. You might need to watch this video one more time, but I want to be clear about this. But if you watch this once and take notes and go through it again and take notes, and you really start to think about what I'm talking about, it's kind of like when you're driving, you're choosing when to put the brake on. If the car in front of you is a decent distance away, you're okay. You can continue. But if it slows down and they're right in front of you, you have to make a different decision. That's what we're trying to point out here to help keep that capital in your account until the expansion in what you could possibly make. I had a couple of social media haters this week completely misunderstanding or misquoting me or taking one little part of what I said out of context. I did not say Apple can't go higher. We were talking about that moment in time when we were looking to buy it and how that sets up from a risk reward perspective. So I'm going to challenge you now. We have, again, 7:40 in the morning. I'm going to challenge you. Take that one extra step before you hit the buy button. Look to the left. It doesn't matter if it's a day trade or a swing trade. Look to the left and say, what does this normally do? And how far am I from the optimal entry? You'll be amazed at how many trades you pass on because you're buying them well after where it started. Now, that doesn't mean it can't continue going. The fact that you found a good idea, you should stick with it. What we're talking about here is timing. Then the next step is time in the trade, which is how long you hold it, which is what we obviously use the profit maximizer in the boot camp for that. So I wanted to bring that over, which actually now I want to point something out, which I posted this morning, emailed out to our community this morning. I want to share it with everybody. I posted it here on the community tab in our Facebook. So if you go over here to community tab and read this, this is the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about, because there's a lot of people over the last 4 or 5 weeks who have been kind of pounding their chest. Every day is a great day to buy. Every day. No, that's garbage. I don't want to curse. Every day is not a great day to buy. And I'm going to point this out because I want to point out what the SPY is. And this is probably one of the biggest things that I think that is one of the most important things in the community and what I teach. If you take a look at this chart of the SPY and you look at the price action in let me actually make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. It's kind of, there you go. You can see that a little bit better. From here to here, price action very clear. From here to here, it's a choppy mess. We went sideways, got hammered on heavy volume, had a monster bullish gap up, and now pretty much sideways again for the last 5 days, other than the FOMC announcement yesterday. So the point that I want to make here and really drill home in an important way, every day is not perfect for full share size. Every day, every trade is not the sun shining in and lighting up your keyboard and hit the bluebirds all over the place. Trading requires you to understand the market conditions. And I'm sure you're like me. We're on YouTube right now. You scan through YouTube. You're looking for some ideas. You want to try and find somebody that maybe you could follow and respect what they're saying. But all of the people that are on YouTube constantly talking about there's always something to do, and you should always have money in the market. And we had one person yesterday, I love when my stocks get crushed after bad earnings. You're an idiot. I'm sorry, you're an idiot. Anybody who says they love the stock that they own going down on bad earnings is not trading. They probably have never traded before. Maybe they bought one share in this age of fractional share trading. Real traders, and again, read that article. Actually, you know what? I'll actually put it in here for you so that you can actually have the link and do a little bit of a deeper dive into that. Right? Do a little bit of a deeper dive into that. Real traders, the first priority is preserving capital. The second priority is understanding how to earn more in your winners. But if you don't take care of the first priority, which is recognizing the market conditions when it's tough versus the market conditions when it's awesome, you will be separated from your capital. It's the number one thing that I teach people when they come into our community. It's not the entry. The entry is not the number one thing. Is it a good idea is the first thing, because if it's not a good idea, there's no reason to look for the entry. So yesterday we talked about a couple of stocks in bearish order flow, which we're going to talk about a couple of them today because they all turned around and they're pretty popular stocks to trade. We were talking about the conditions that would lead to a potential reversal, and then we would consider a trade. We were not talking about buying it on the way down. It was a lesson in tape reading and order flow. So I get loud a little bit sometimes because I care deeply about the actual point of what I'm saying, which is our number one job is identifying good ideas. Then we could learn how to time in and out of those ideas. So we actually want to hop on over. We want to first talk about the rotation over the last week and a half and the ideas that have unfolded over the last week and a half. So obviously everybody knows that we start with this every day. The thing that I want to point out here is we mentioned this all week where consumer defensive has been strong. So we're talking about stocks like Pepsi, Coke, Walmart, P&G, those kind of things. Healthcare, however, with the way that the market is changing very dramatically with the variant, I guess that's the only way I could word it, with the variant. And pretty much every other day, there's a different conversation about whether or not it's getting worse, which it apparently is. And again, that's not my opinion. That's just reading hundreds of headlines. So anyway, healthcare stocks have been the stocks that have been a huge part of the community. So I just want to make sure that I give you a few ideas if you have not been trading some of the healthcare stocks. Pfizer, and again, I want to give you a list of ideas that have bullish order flow and have room to go. So Pfizer, CNC, which we called out a couple of days ago. Remember, we talked about this optimal entry and this optimal entry, CNC. Lilly's probably a little bit further from the optimal entry and probably going to need to pause at this breakout level. So this big move here, you can look to the left and see what Lilly does. This is a monster move. So I still like it long. It's actually opening higher here. But today would be a day trade looking for it to pause above this level. CVS actually in this area as well. ABBV as well. J&J, CERN. Okay, so while the market was going sideways, we were finding some ideas that were breaking out now. And Amgen, if you remember on yesterday morning's video, yesterday in Amgen, we actually called out Amgen, set an alert for Amgen over 215, and it popped through that level yesterday. So I just wanted to point out that even though the market has been a little bit challenging, this one pocket of opportunity has risen to the top, and it's been one that you could have kept your eyes on at this moment. I want to work my way over into a group of stocks that were really, really strong about 5 weeks ago, have cooled off the last 4 weeks. Yesterday, they traded mostly into bullish U-turns. Now, if you remember what we talked about yesterday with the bullish U-turn, is you have bearish momentum that the recent day, so let's say yesterday, trades below the previous candle, reverses, closes green, and closes above the previous low. And I'm going to point out those charts in a second. So these stocks have been in bearish order flow. Yesterday, they had a bearish order flow into a bullish momentum reversal. So momentum means it's just one day, but we're looking for that one day to then become a week. And when the week moves over, if we go from a bullish U-turn on the daily chart to a bullish U-turn on the weekly chart, then we could look for these reversals of that bearish order flow. That's a big mouthful, right? Essentially, the stocks that were strong sold off. Yesterday, they reversed, and now we're going to watch them, okay? I like to give the full context because I really want you to learn, all right? So, John A., you hit it on the head. That's exactly what we're talking about right now. So we're going to take a look at LAC. And here's where you can see that we've actually had some bearish order flow. By the way, John, excellent job. Excellent job. So the bearish order flow that we've been watching is this after these stocks have had this run here, which was pretty darn strong, right? Actually, that was the first change of trend that broke back to the upside. Here's the second change of trend. So here's what I mean by bullish U-turn, okay? We had some bearish momentum in the context of this bearish order flow, which was only a couple of weeks, but it was bearish. Yesterday, traded below the previous candle and came back up. You can see how far we are from breaking this trend, though. So I want to be clear, so I'm not misquoted, which I hate to say that, but it's the truth. We're not talking about necessarily buying them today. They are now in the game plan for us to consider if price action improves over the next few days and we break the downtrend. But remember, a lot of what we talk about is being prepared before it happens. So we're building a list of stocks that we're going to watch. If they break these bearish order flow, then we will consider. Yesterday's bullish U-turn is the first sign of a bullish reversal after a couple of weeks of selling. That's a mouthful, right? But this is what it takes to trade at the highest levels. You need to go a little bit deeper. We had another one of our coaching calls last night. So far this week, we've had 4.5 hours worth of coaching just between Monday and Wednesday. And the reason I bring that up is we had a lot of new people come into the boot camp on over the holiday weekend a couple of weeks ago. Probably the single biggest thought process change for them is the amount of game planning that goes into being ready to make money this week. So if I can inspire you even just to think of anything along those lines, really think about how much time you spend coming up with your ideas and how you plan for them from one day to the next. So I'm going to keep going through this list. LAC, one of the first ones. Plug, I think, which is up another 5.5%. So again, you can see this is probably one of the best visualizations you'll get on it, right? Well offered to the downside, bullish U-turn and a short-term rally. Well offered to the downside, bullish U-turn. We'll see what happens. We're still trading this, right? We can't ignore that, but we would probably have an alert set for over here. So probably like 33 to see if it gets back above. This is 1 day versus 5 days, 1 day versus 5 days. We're looking for this 1 day to turn into this, multiple days like that. So we're looking for a bullish U-turn to turn into a well-bid candlestick. Now, what's kind of cool about what I just said? We said we had bearish order flow into a bullish U-turn, and what we're looking for next is for the candles to go well bid. So we're going bearish order flow into bullish U-turn into well bid, which is now today we want to see follow up. We want to see the smart money come back, pay higher prices for a second day, and hold higher lows, which means well bid. If that happens, then we will consider looking for an entry. So do you see how we just scripted out everything in this stock, what happened, what we need to see, and then what we plan to do before it even happened? This is how we talk about, again, obviously in a lot more detail in the boot camp, this is how we talk about trading after the market opens is actually the easy part, because you know what you're looking to do before the market opens. This is where trading becomes fun, because you have your sheet, you're just sitting there and you're saying, oh, my alarm went off. I'm going to now look to see if there's an entry. That's what trading should be. A lot less stressful because you're ready. So let's go over to the rest of the stocks. Plug was the second one that we're looking at, and you can see it's actually up 5% already this morning. So good short-term reversal. BLNK, again, another bearish, bullish U-turn. So we're going to draw that line. Again, you need to understand how to start putting the price that matters to you. So BLNK and CHPT as well. This one did not close green, but pretty darn close as well. You could actually see it's only up 1.7% here. So the other ones are actually up a little bit more. And this one actually has some more room to go. Something that's kind of fun here too is you can see over here what we talk about quite a bit. Do we have energy candlesticks that are well bid, or do we have indecision? Remember, out of all the names you could possibly use for candlesticks, we call these indecision because they're melted candles. You might know them as a doji, but they opened and closed in basically the same spot. Do you trade bearish and indecisive, or do you wait for it to be bullish, well bid, and showing good bullish energy? That's what I talked about this morning, where I said there's not always something to do. If there's something to do, you get in there and you trade with conviction. If you run your scans, have bullish order flow, or if you're short selling, bearish order flow, but you still need to time the trade. So there's order flow, timing into the trade, and then time in the trade, which is how long you hold it. And that's where we use the profit maximizer to determine if it's a momentum trade or a trend trade. That is actually a lot easier to hold the winners, because as each candle unfolds, you know exactly how to manage that winning trade, which is probably one of the hardest parts for traders to do, is understand how long to hold your winners at the expense of not giving back profits. That's really a skill that takes a little bit of time, but once you have it all mapped out, it actually becomes pretty easy, okay? So I want to get into the list that I gave everybody before. If you didn't screenshot it, I'm going to put it up on the screen again just one more time, and it's this list right here. So if you could think about what we talked about before, which is here, okay? If you take this bigger list of ideas, what we eventually then do is we work the list and we break it down into other ideas to trade. So just to give you an idea of the difference between this bigger list of all of the stocks from the actual list that made it into my game plan today. So you can see how much smaller this list is compared to the big list. Now, something else I want to point out. Obviously, we just said perfect conditions versus perfect timing. Two different things, right? Run the scans. Oh my God, all these stocks meet the criteria. Then you have to go in and see, where is the stock near or far from the optimal entry? And we just discussed and taught you how to do that. Now, the next step is you want to go into this list, and you want to take it a step further. So if you look at that link I posted before, and I'll actually post it below the video again, after this video, I'll post it in the description. Then you need to go into this list, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see the point that I'm making. Now you want to go into this list and say, are there any dominant sectors that meet the perfect criteria? Are there any dominant industry groups where obviously smart money is piling into or doing something? And probably one of the easiest ways to describe it is, does smart money have attention on a particular area of the market? And obviously we know we keep calling that sectors. Technology has been one of the strongest groups for a while now, and even more specifically semiconductors. But now you can see here healthcare. You get the idea, right? So that's how you start to elevate your game. Is this a lot of work after hours? Does it take a little bit of time to understand how to scan, to understand how to build the right criteria into your scans, and then go from the scans to build a list of perfect? And again, I want to say this, and this is something I'd really love to see you write down. If you don't know what perfect looks like, then everything looks the same, which means you don't have an edge. Can't express it any other way. Cannot express it any other way. So this list starts out with the perfect criteria. Then we break it down and see which of those perfect ideas are tradable now when we plan to get in. Now, the question that comes back is, wow, that's a lot of work. Well, yeah, we do it all for you. We show everybody how to do it, and I give you my entire list. But what's more important is I show you the entire process so you ultimately become the reason that you're making money. All right. So we covered a lot of stuff today. I have to get ready for the other game plan. If you found some value here today, please do me a favor, click down and smash that like button. I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you get alerts. I actually have some new videos coming out soon too. All right. Have an awesome day, everybody. I really appreciate it. I hope you snapshot that list and then dive in there and see how close stuff is to the perfect entry. All right. Have an awesome day, everybody. I really appreciate it. Take care now.